What if you weren't born to fit in, but to remember? What if your craving for truth, for inner mastery, for something more, wasn't confusion, but a signal? Right now, in this world of distraction, division, and noise, a rare kind of soul is beginning to wake up. They don't want to escape life. They want to master it, from the inside out. They are called initiates. And for thousands of years, this path has been walked quietly, in temples, caves, hidden schools. Now, it returns in the modern world. In this video, you're going to discover exactly how to live like a hermetic initiate in today's chaotic digital age. Not just the philosophy, but the practice. You'll learn how to think like a mystic while living like a creator, apply ancient laws to modern problems, turn daily life into a temple of transformation. And if you've always felt like there was something deeper waiting for you, there is. And it begins right here. Because the real question isn't, can I live like an initiate? It's, what happens if I don't? You don't need stone walls to build a temple. You don't need to wear robes or chant in languages you don't understand. You don't need to run away to a monastery. In the Hermetic path, the initiate carries the temple within. And in the modern world, where time is scarce, minds are cluttered, and truth is sold in pieces, that inner temple is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. To the Hermetic initiate, a temple is not a building. It's a state of consciousness. It's where silence becomes presence, where breath becomes prayer, where thought becomes intention, where every action becomes sacred. In ancient Egypt, initiates trained for years just to perceive this temple within themselves. They were taught that the divine wasn't above or outside them, but inside their own awareness. And that sacred space, that subtle fire, is still within you right now, even in traffic, even on a screen, even in moments when you feel furthest from peace. The lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. The Kybalion. That understanding begins by entering the temple within. You can walk like a hermetic initiate through your day without changing your schedule, only your state. When you wake up and pause for 5 seconds of stillness before touching your phone, you're entering the temple. When you eat your food with attention, not just consumption, you're practicing sacred awareness. When you notice a negative thought and transmute it instead of reacting, you've stepped into the innermost sanctuary. That's the secret. The initiate doesn't escape life. They elevate it. They turn the ordinary into the alchemical, the home into the temple, the breath into the bell, the body into the vessel of the divine. And if you've felt like you're waiting for a sign, this is it. Your temple doesn't need permission to be real. It needs your awareness, not next month. Not when you're healed. Now. But how does a hermetic initiate think? What mental state allows them to walk through chaos and still remain clear? That's what we'll explore next. Let's be honest. Most people don't control their minds. Their minds control them. They wake up anxious. They react to the world. They loop through fear, worry, doubt, comparison, on repeat. But a hermetic initiate lives differently, because they understand one of the most powerful truths in all existence. The all is mind. The universe is mental. The Kybalion. Everything begins in the mind, not just thoughts, reality. The first Hermetic law, mentalism, says that the entire universe, at its root, is consciousness. Not matter, not atoms, mind. This means your outer world is not separate from your inner one. Your environment, your emotions, your experience, they are all being projected through your consciousness, filtered, shaped, and colored by the frequency of your thought. The Hermetic initiate doesn't just think differently. They recognize that thought is the first act of creation. If you walk into a meeting already believing you're not worthy, you'll subconsciously confirm it in every glance, tone, and silence. If you carry the thought, "Nothing ever works out for me," you'll unconsciously sabotage the very opportunities you've been praying for. If you believe, "I am a channel for clarity and purpose," you'll find yourself guided even in confusion. This isn't magic, it's mechanics. Your mind is the architect. Reality is the clay. The Hermetic initiate trains their mind like a sculptor with sacred stone. They observe their thoughts. They select them like seeds. They reject anything that does not align with truth. Not with force, but with awareness. They know a thought held long enough becomes a belief. A belief lived long enough becomes a pattern, and a pattern reinforced becomes a life. So ask yourself now, what thoughts am I watering every single day? What unconscious mental blueprints am I still living from? What future am I scripting, just by default? Because mentalism doesn't sleep. It doesn't pause for bad moods. It's working right now. The question is, are you shaping it, or is it shaping you? So if the Hermetic initiate builds their temple through presence and programs their reality through thought, how do they maintain inner balance when life pulls in opposite directions? We'll explore that next. You've felt it, the pull between action and rest, the tension between speaking up and staying silent, the war between hope and doubt, power and fear. Modern life is full of extremes, and most people swing between them like a pendulum, exhausted, reactive, off-center. But a Hermetic initiate? They walk between the worlds. They don't fight duality. They learn to balance it. Two Hermetic laws govern this mastery. Polarity, everything has its opposite. Rhythm, everything flows in and out, rises and falls. Together they explain why your emotional and mental state shifts, and how to stabilize yourself in the middle of it all. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. The Kybalion ever had a season of growth only to crash into burnout? Felt deep joy, then sudden sadness with no reason? Reached clarity, only to be tested with chaos the next day? That's not failure. That's rhythm. That's polarity. It's how energy flows. And if you're unaware, you'll feel like a victim to your own highs and lows. But the initiate learns something powerful. To pause, to observe, to neutralize. They develop a center so strong, even when life swings, they don't. They move through pain without becoming it. They move through pleasure without clinging to it. They stay steady because they know everything is in motion. When conflict rises, they don't explode. They listen. When joy comes, they don't grasp. They breathe it in fully, then release it. When darkness visits, they hold the lamp of awareness, knowing the light will return. They live like a mountain among weather, still rooted, still watching, still present. And if you've felt overwhelmed by life's swings, you're not broken. You're just being invited to step out of the pendulum. You can live with both passion and peace, power and stillness, movement and rest. This is the edge the modern world doesn't understand, but that the initiate quietly walks every single day. But how does the initiate act? What guides their choices, their words, their relationships? That's where divine alignment comes in. And that's what we'll uncover next. Most people believe life is random, that what happens to them is based on luck, timing, fate, or someone else's decision. But a Hermetic initiate lives by a different truth. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. The Kybalion. Nothing in your life is random. Everything is responding to you. Cause and effect isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a spiritual law operating in every moment, every thought you hold, every word you speak, every emotion you choose, every intention you carry. They all ripple outward, forming outcomes, relationships, energy, reality. The initiate understands. You are either a creator of causes or a victim of effects. You think in lack and find scarcity. You speak in fear and attract resistance. You act with clarity and find doors opening in your path. This isn't magic, it's mathematics of energy. And here's the twist. Even inaction is a cause. Even unconsciousness creates ripples. So the initiate chooses to live with awareness, not to control life, but to align with it. They choose their thoughts like an artist chooses colors, deliberate, vivid, alive. They speak with intention, knowing every word plants a seed. They move not from impulse, but from alignment with a deeper center. They don't chase results. They calibrate their vibration and let reality follow. And so must you. You've already been creating. The only question is, have you been doing it with awareness? Because your life right now, yes, even the mess, is a feedback loop. It's showing you your vibration, your focus, your beliefs, your power. This is not a judgment, it's an invitation. The Hermetic path says, if you can create unconsciously, then you can create powerfully, with purpose. Here's a way to start. Before every action, ask yourself, is this aligned with the future I want to experience? Before every conversation, is this a cause I'm proud to set in motion? Because once you remember this, you never walk through life the same again. Now, let's take this even deeper. If you can align thought, action, and energy, what happens when you align with the two universal forces within you? That's what separates the initiate from the world. Let's talk about divine polarity, sacred union, and inner balance in the next chapter. There's a union happening inside you right now. You may not see it. You may not have a name for it. But you feel it. A pull between doing and being. Between pushing forward and letting go. Between logic and intuition. Between structure and surrender. This isn't dysfunction. It's divine design. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. The Kybalion. In Hermetic wisdom, gender has nothing to do with man or woman. It refers to the two fundamental forces in the universe and in you. The masculine, active, directive, focused, giving, structured. The feminine, receptive, intuitive, creative, nurturing, flowing. Everything that exists contains both, the sun and the moon, the inhale and the exhale, the thought and the feeling. The Hermetic initiate doesn't reject one to embrace the other. They learn to marry them. If you're always taking action without inner listening, you burn out. If you're always receiving and feeling without expression, you stagnate. We live in a world that celebrates over-masculinized doing and shames intuitive stillness. But the initiate sees through this. They learn. It's not about choosing one side. It's about becoming the container where both meet. You listen deeply, feminine, then act decisively, masculine. You rest with intention, feminine, then create with clarity, masculine. You allow emotions to rise, feminine, and hold them without being consumed, masculine. You're not choosing sides, you're choosing balance, because when your inner forces are aligned, your life begins to reflect that harmony. You stop feeling torn, you stop overreacting, you move from wholeness. If you've ever felt like part of you was fighting another part, you're not broken. You're waking up to the truth that both sides are sacred. The sacred masculine is not domination, it's direction. The sacred feminine is not passivity, it's presence. Together they birth conscious creation. So if the initiate balances the temple, the mind, the polarity, and the will, what does all of this mean for you? How do you live all of this every day as your path, not your escape? Let's bring it all together now. What does it really mean to live like a hermetic initiate in today's world? Not in robes, not in secret temples, but in a city, with a phone, with responsibilities, relationships, real-life choices. It means this: you become a channel for the ancient, inside the modern. You carry the temple in your body, the law in your breath, the mystery in your eyes. You've learned that your mind isn't a passenger, it's the projector. That balance isn't escape, it's mastery. That every thought, every word, every act is a cause. That your inner forces, once united, become your superpower. But more than that, you've remembered that the Hermetic path isn't just about knowledge. It's about practice, living the laws, walking the path, becoming the flame. Wake up and consciously direct your mind. You're tuning the frequency of your entire day. Face challenges not with fear, but with inner neutrality and awareness. Create from alignment, not ambition. Speak with power. Act with intention. Rest with reverence. Let your life become a ritual. Let your presence become your teaching. You don't need to preach. You don't need to convert. You only need to embody, and others will feel the current moving through you. True initiation is not escape from the world. It is the ability to walk through it as a living reminder that spirit never sleeps. And now you know. You are not just watching a video. You're remembering a path you've walked before, a path of clarity, of creation, of consciousness, a path that very few will choose, but that you already heard the call to return to. If this resonated, if something ancient stirred within you, you're not alone. This channel, this space, is a living temple of remembrance. Subscribe to stay on the path. Comment if you're walking it now. Share this with someone you know is ready to awaken, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more initiates. And you were born for this.